Greetings everyone, I am Talisman and welcome to my galaxy. There's been a lot of hype recently for Poppy Playtime. There's been a teaser trailer for Chapter 4 that's dropped, and some new characters revealed called the Nightmare Critters. And with the reveal of the Nightmare Critters, there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of discussion within the Poppy Playtime community about what sort of role these characters are going to play, how they fit into the story, but after reading about them and thinking about the design and what has actually been said by the devs, I've come up with some ideas that I really haven't heard anyone else talk about. And I find that as a bit of a shame because, to me, they were right there in front of me when I started reading and watching and thinking about things. So with that said, I want to reveal them to you. And the first thing I noticed was the first nightmare critter that was revealed called Bubba Chops. Bubba Chops is a black sheep, and her description says,
"The black sheep of the bunch. Bubba prefers to keep her space. Like a lot of space. Too much space. She can be distant, quiet, low energy, and usually requires a lot of coaxing to get her out of the house. Luckily for her, she has some very persistent friends. She usually perks up after a while, but the next day, we're right back to the same tune."
So, with that said, I find that her personality has been reflected very easily within the trailer. Now, what do you mean? What do I mean by that? What I mean is, when we first see the opening shots of the trailer where we see Dog Day come in and he's eating the remains of one of the toys, and Bubba Chops, who is hiding in plain sight, just attacks Dog Day, and then we get that, reveal that they're in a very big open area, possibly like a warehouse or storage area, and there's piles of dead toys everywhere. And I thought, wow, that's a really good shot. But then, thinking about it a bit more, they said in the description that Bubba Chops likes her space. A lot of space. Where are they? In a very big open area like a storage shed. Yes, there's bodies in there. Yes, there's other objects, but it's a big area for such a small toy. That's her personality coming into play. They're showing that. Visually, they're showing that. And then we take it one step further. She was hiding in plain sight, which is what they were saying in the description. She goes back into hiding. She goes into a space and she stays there. It's very almost poetic in a way, how they're showing it without actually telling you it. It was really good. I love that idea. The next thing I noticed straight away was Bubba Chop's pendant. It's a skull. Why was that relevant? Well, thinking about where the devs got their inspiration from, they said they took a lot of inspiration from the 80s and 90s. Well, what do we notice in that time period? In that time period, we had the rise of a lot of very popular and well-known heavy metal bands that we know of today. We also saw the rise of the goth and the emo that really took off in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I think that's where they're drawing the inspiration for Bubba Chops from. Remember, Bubba Chops is a black sheep, someone who doesn't fit in, someone who is an outsider, an outcast, someone who really doesn't belong or doesn't, fit in. What perfect symbolism for the emo or the goth, because they are considered people who don't fit in. They're wearing all black. They are very in touch with emotions and feelings. They express it differently. They have, a heavy metal or a alternate metal taste in music. Pardon me. So it makes sense. It fits the character, and I think that's the inspiration they were going for. Then you look at the scent that the Bubba Chops apparently has, and that's anise. And Jarvis, can you tell me what anise is, please?
Anise is also known as aniseed. It's used to make licorice, sir.
There you go. So a licorice scent, aniseed. So that's very interesting because aniseed and licorice is an acquired taste. Not everybody likes it. And that sort of fits into, once again, Bubba Chop's personality. Not everyone is going to be liking her or see her because she likes her own space. She goes into her own sort of world. She stays there. It makes sense, you know. A lot of people don't like licorice or aniseed. Bubba Chops could be seen as one of those things where they keep her away, you know, or she stays away from people, you know, whatever the case may be. So that's really clever to me. That's really nice, a good little touch. And once again, something that no one else has ever mentioned or picked up on yet, which I find, once again, very interesting. The second nightmare critter that was revealed is Icky Licky. And Icky Licky is a frog. Not just any frog, though. Jarvis, what kind of frog is Icky Licky?
Icky Licky could be based off the Australian corroboree frog or the South American poison dart frog.
Thanks, Jarvis. So there you go. Icky Licky is a frog, considered a poisonous frog, and the description of Icky Licky says,
Licky's the type of kid to fall behind in a rally race and immediately pin it on a sore knee, even when that's not the case. He's the very definition of a poor sport. Even though he's naturally talented, he's constantly challenging everyone on absolutely everything, and usually without the outcome he expects. Don't worry, he has an excuse ready.
So that's very interesting in itself. Icky Licky is always making excuses. He has the ability and the talent, but chooses to, you know, always blame everything else or have a reason for things not going their way or doing things that way. And that sort of screams to me as poor sportsmanship, toxic behavior, which is really interesting because the symbol on his pendant is the biohazard symbol. Biohazard being dangerous, poisonous, you know, don't go near it, leave it alone, you know, stay away. That's perfectly encompassing this new character's behavior right there. We don't need to go any further than that because it's poetic in a way. It makes sense. And then you got the scent of Icky Licky, which is coffee. And coffee is a bit of a turn-off to some people. They don't like it, or it can be too strong for, you know, some people. It can be burnt. There's a lot of things with coffee that can really turn people off from it. And it's almost an acquired taste in itself. Therefore, it makes sense in a way that you've got coffee representing the scent of this frog, this particular character. Very cleverly done, and I love the inspiration behind it. I love the idea that they tried to come up with. Very clever. The third was Raby Baby, and Raby Baby is a bat. And her description says,
Raby Baby couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. If there's one thing in the world she loves, it's gossiping, and she's very practiced at it. She has no concept of privacy or boundaries, and if she's in the room, you can bet she's eavesdropping on someone. Don't worry, if she ever runs out of juicy secrets to talk about, she'll just make some up.
This, once again, is very interesting, and much like Bubba Chops, I think there's a lot about her design and her personality that really shines through here. Even though we haven't seen Icky Licky or Raby Baby in the trailer, we get a sense of who they are and the inspiration behind them right away. With Raby Baby, for example, look at her pose. It's very schoolgirl or anime-like. Very, that whole pose. And what do we notice about that pose as well? A lot of schoolgirls use it, and schoolgirls, especially high school, gossip. They love gossip, which is Raby Baby's personality. Another thing that I noticed, and I found it very unusual at the start, was the name, Raby Baby. I thought that's a bit strange, but then I started to think 80s and 90s again. What happened? Well, we have Barbie. Is it a play on, instead of Barbie, it's Raby? Possibly. And Baby also, because in the 90s we had the Spice Girls. Baby Spice. Raby Baby. Kind of makes sense. I've heard a lot of people saying that, Raby Baby, because she likes secrets and gossip and all this thing, that maybe we will see her in the game and she's going to be telling secrets about the Playtime Co. employees or the experiments or something like that. Possible. It is possible. What I could also see as a possibility is a cardboard cutout like we have seen of other toys in Poppy Playtime. And when you hit the button with the grab pack, Raby Baby will be saying something like, I know your secrets. I know everything about you. These sort of things. You can't hide anything from me. That sort of thing. I get that sense and I love it. I think it's a really good design, really clever, plays on the 80s and 90s, and once again, love the idea. The other thing I noticed about Raby Baby is the scent, bubblegum. Why bubblegum? Well, bubblegum can be sweet. It can also be very sticky. It's in your face. If it pops in your face. Gossip and innuendos and all this thing, it can leave egg on your face, so to speak. It's that sort of symbolism. Very interesting. Another thing that I thought about was in a lot of 90s movies, especially high school and college sort of movies, there was always that mean girl, the brat, the popular one, the gossip girl, all these sort of words, or even the plastic one, which we got, was a name that was given to a lot of popular girls when I was going through high school myself, the plastic ones. It's always them who are chewing on bubblegum or, doing something with their hair or, all these little tropes. And Raby Baby screams that. A 90s teenager or college girl gossiping about things. The pose, everything. Baby Spice, the whole Mean Girls look, it fits. Love the design. Absolutely thought it was great. And the whole bubblegum being sweet, but also, that little play, well done. Mob Entertainment did a really good job with it. I think that's really cool. The last Nightmare Critter that was revealed, and it came out only a few hours ago, was Alistair Gator. Now, Alistair Gator's description says,
Alistair's an all-round lazy guy. He's chill, sure, but if he could, he would spend all day in the water, doing pretty much nothing. He isn't a fan of the whole put in the effort and see the effort rewarded bit. He's much more of a believer of the philosophy, good things come to me, eventually. I just need to wait around for it. He's still waiting.
Once again, very interesting. We haven't seen Alistair Gator in a trailer or any sort of media outside of the reveal. And it's very interesting because it's, once again, a play on words with a lot of things. Alistair Gator, alligator, makes a lot of sense. And the description I find very interesting because alligators are like crocodiles. In Australia, we have crocodiles. Crocodiles can be very patient. They can lay around for hours without moving. They look like they're almost dead in a way because they just are lifeless. They just lay there or they float. There's no movement from them. And all of a sudden, bang, an explosion of speed and they'll go back to being quiet again and calm. Very much like alligators, and especially with Alistair Gator, his description says he is very lazy. Is it lazy or is it patient? He says he lets things come to him. That's patience in a way. If everything comes to him in time and he's just waiting for it, that's not just lazy, that's patience. And much like crocodiles, alligators learn. They watch and they learn. And when they watch and learn, they pick up on habits, they pick up on routines. They are very, very smart animals in that respect. And I think Alistair Gator is going to be very much the same. He's going to be lazy, you could see him as lazy, patient, and when the time's right, after learning all the habits, all the routines, he'll attack or he'll go for what he wants. And I think that's a really cool design, really clever. And especially when you look at the pendant, once again, the pendant is the two crossed bones. What do we know about that? Well, that can be a symbol of no go, don't go there. It could also be seen as stop, warning, danger sort of thing. So that sort of implies that, once again, you cross into the territory of Alistair Gator, you are going to be his prey. So it falls into that. Love it. Very clever. I thought the design was very basic, but at the same time, what more could you go for? And putting up his hand almost like that, it's sort of like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. It gives me that sort of vibe, which that fits into the personality. Very, very clever. Love it. I haven't heard anyone talk about these, which I found very disappointing, and I thought someone surely would pick it up. There is one or two other things, actually, that I did notice that I thought was very clever. Now, the first one was the logo for the Nightmare Critters. When we look at it, the whole thing, yes, it reveals each of the critters in some way. Like we've got in the eye, we've got the pendant of the skull, which represents, Bubba Chops. We've also got the green that matches Alistair Gator. We've got the bat wings on the S. So that has, Raby Baby. We've got all these different ones, which I think is quite clever. And clearly there's going to be a dragon because there's, with the C, there's flames coming out of it. I've heard rumours that there might be a rat or mouse sort of one. Once again, that's good theory. But the two things I noticed with the logo is it gives me really big Monster High Bratz sort of vibe. That whole design of the logo, screams very much that sort of vibe. And yes, I know that they had the Smiling Critters before that, and they're just taking it and twisting it. But once again, it's very much, it fits that vibe, which I found really cool and really interesting. The next thing I noticed about the logo in per se is how it matches the other Smiling Critters. It matches up to the Smiling Critters. With each reveal, we've got something that matches or is the opposite of the other. An example of this is Catnap, who is the Smiling Critter, and Bubba Chops, who is the Nightmare Critter. Now, Bubba Chops and Catnap, very different animals. How could they match? Well, when you look at the Smiling Critters video that they released, all the Smiling Critters were together, and then as the storm rages on outside, the door swings open and Catnap walks in. He wasn't with the group. He stood out. He was different. Bubba Chops is an outcast, a black sheep, an exact opposite. And then when we look at the whole Smiling Critters logo and the Nightmare Critters logo, isn't it interesting that Catnap's represented with the moon above the eye in the Smiling Critters? In the Nightmare Critters, the eye is represented by the skull, which is Bubba Chops. They're the exact opposite. Equal opposites in a way. In a stretch, I don't know where it fits in, but Icky Licky, for example, he has the ability, raw talent and ability, but makes excuses. Well, that could be an opposite of Kick and Chicken, because Kick and Chicken is a Smiling Critter who is very energetic. He's cool. He's he's it. He's hot in a way, he's the thing. Where you got, or it could be Hoppy Hopscotch, where she's energetic, always running around, always having fun, trying to encourage other people. One of those, I'm leaning towards Hoppy Hopscotch more. It's the equal opposite. They twist. And that comes to my final point with this whole reveal of the Smiling Critters and the Nightmare Critters. Back in the in the 80s, even in the 90s, we had a lot of shows that represented different media, so games or just anime or whatever. And there's always the trope of there's the hero and then there's a villain who is the opposite or similar but opposite. So, for example, we had Mario and Wario. We had Sonic and Shadow. We had the Powerpuff Girls and the Rowdy Rough Boys. So, and we also had the Care Bears and We Don't Care Bears. So it's very much that whole duality of things where they're the same but they're opposites. They have different meanings. The Smiling Critters were considered the good. They were positive. Every single thing about them was positive. Like you got Bubba Bubbaphant, who was knowledge and knowledge and wisdom. You had Crafty Corn, who was imagination and being creative. Hoppy Hopscotch, energetic and being friendly and accommodating. You had Dog Day, who was a natural leader. Catnap, who promoted sleep and being mindful that sleep is important. All these positive things that encompassed good behavior, good vibes. What is the opposite of that? Bad behavior. Bad behavior like spreading rumors, listening to gossip and spreading gossip, like Raby Baby, or Icky Licky, being a poor sportsman or making excuses for everything. Bad behavior. Or Bubba Chops, who is reclusive, who is a loner, who doesn't fit in, likes her own space, leave me alone. That can be seen as bad because we as humans are social creatures, and we would imagine that these toys have been created using the bodies and the souls and the hearts and minds of people, children, adults. And yes, it matches the personality, but it can be seen as bad. And we don't know what other things have happened to these experiments while they're being created. So with that said, I don't believe the prototype or the theory of the prototype creating the Nightmare Critters is factual. I think that they were created as the equal opposites to the Smiling Critters. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have a cartoon that comes out in the future that shows that, where you got the Smiling Critters and then they're interacting with the Nightmare Critters, or the Nightmare Critters come and harass them or attack them and show them up and try to put them at odds. I would not be surprised if we get something like that. Very much like the Care Bears and We Don't Care Bears, like the whole duality. I guess another duality you could look at is the Autobots and Decepticons from the Transformers universe. Pardon me. Both do the same thing. Both transform, but they have different objectives, different goals, different ways of doing things, good and bad. And once again, they leaned heavily into the 80s and 90s when they chose that, because that duality came out a lot in the 80s and 90s. So I think that's going to be the heavy focus, and that's what all my ideas for now, until more of the Nightmare Critters come out and I get a bit more feeling of what's going on there. Will we see them all in game? It remains to be seen, because we haven't actually seen a lot of the Smiling Critters in game. We didn't see the bigger bodies. We only saw the small toys, and they didn't really talk. They were just a minor side plot in a way, which was a bit of a shame. We saw cardboard cutouts, but that's it. Could the Nightmare Critters be exactly the same? It's possible. I would personally like to see them all. I would love to see a level where we go into a water sort of environment and it's Alistair Gator laying around and he's jumping out of the water trying to attack the player. I could see that being a level. It's a possibility. Or once again, maybe we get a cardboard cutout of Raby Baby going, I know your secrets. Do you want to hear a story? Things like that. Oh, do you want to know what happened here? And things like that. I could see that coming along. But for the moment, I'm going to wrap this video up here because it's gone on way too long. Thank you very much for whoever stayed back and listened to the full video. And if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments below. If you disagree with what I've got to say, please leave a comment below. As long as it's constructive, I'm happy to listen. And once again, thank you for tuning into Talisman Galaxy, and I'll catch you in the next video. Catch ya.